Welcome to Conversations with Entrepreneurs, a podcast by Africa Center where we give Black Albertan entrepreneurs the opportunity to share their experiences of starting and doing business in Canada. The Africa Center is the largest Pan-African non-profit organization in Western Canada that strives to create opportunities for full access and participation of all Albertans in all aspects of society. I am your host, Miriam Chimanga, creator and founder of Fuse In Who Am I, a broadcasting and media company based here in Edmonton, Alberta. Tonight, we celebrate the Black History Month, and I'm here with the amazing Saïd M'Dahoma. How are you, Saïd?
I'm pretty good. How about you?
I'm good. When I look at your bio and everything, I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna let him talk about. I'm just so excited about you being the neuroscientist and then turned into a pastry owner. So, can you talk about, your career first, and then you can talk about other things about your business.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Miriam, for giving me the opportunity to chat with you tonight first. And what I wanted to say is, so the way it started is when I moved to Calgary 7 years ago for my research. I got a research position at the University of Calgary after my PhD in Paris. And so I was born and raised in Paris, and I decided to move to Calgary for research.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to miss French pastries a lot.
Wow.
And I missed them so much that I started baking them. All I could think about was pastries. And I was not really good at first, but I just got better and improved to the point that now I have almost 50,000 followers between all different social media. I'm giving baking classes. I have a blog, and that became my profession.
Wow. Amazing career. I'm just fascinated actually about your career and also the switch because I can relate. I'm not going to talk about myself tonight, but the month of February is dedicated to Black History Month celebrations, and we reflect on the business people that have come before us, people like the Oprah Winfreys of this world, and of course the owner of Fubu, Demond, and many others. What are some of your experiences or reflections about Black History Month?
I think it's a very important time for Black people because very often our voices have been erased. Very often there are amazing stories of people who contributed to this world, and nobody knows about those stories. Nobody knows about them, and I think it's important. It's important to have a month where we can, step back, and reflect on everything that Black people have accomplished despite the struggles that they have encountered.
Yeah, it's good to set aside a month or set aside a day to actually just reflect on those things. And I concur with you when you say that, a lot of things have been erased from our records and just the history itself. And we need to kind of capture those and, start looking at those, especially for generations to come. Now, I know I'm fascinated about how you switched from being a neuroscientist and then to this. What was the process of just saying that, okay, I'm going to leave this and go into what was that process? How did you even think of becoming an entrepreneur?
A lot of people have always dreamt about being an entrepreneur, and that wasn't my case. It all happened gradually, and it was, at first I was baking just in my kitchen, and then at some point, and I was always posting about my bakes on social media, but nobody was paying so much attention. But then at some point it caught up, and more people started to be interested by what I was doing. And at the same time, I was also extremely passionate. And during my day job, I would be dreaming about the next pastry, the next bake that I would make. And at some point, I thought, people are interested by what I'm doing. I'm very passionate about what I'm doing as well. Why not try to do something with it? Why not try to launch a business and making my life out of that?
Oh, that's very good. Unfortunately, I didn't ask you to bring one. I know we are on Zoom. I could have asked you to bring, some pastries so we can look at them and see how the shapes and stuff. Do you have maybe some kind of inspiration on those pastry that you make? Like is the cultural inspirations?
So when it comes to inspiration, there's two main inspirations for me. The first one would be obviously the French one, because I was born and raised in Paris, and I was very much influenced by the French pastry techniques. But there's also the Comorian one. So my parents come from a tiny island called the Comoros Islands in the Indian Ocean. And there's lots of culture. There's a lot of food culture in Comoros. There's a lot of ingredients. For example, there's lots of vanilla. My grandmother was a vanilla farmer.
Nice.
And it's really into our culture to have sweets, contrary to what people think about, because most of the time people don't think about Africa when they think about sweets. And we have lots of sweets, and Comorians have lots of sweets. So I'm always trying to, when I'm creating something, a pastry, I'm always trying to get inspiration from both the French side and the Comorian side.
I know what you say about when people think about food and things like sweet or whatever. I think Africa is in the chili. They think about spicy and all that stuff. So that's very good that you came up with that. What do you think the Black community should do to thrive in business effectively? What are the challenges facing businesses right now and all that?
I think one of the things that we tend to neglect, maybe, but I'm not sure. I mean, I don't want to speak for the whole Black community, but I think it's what is really important is networking. Okay. Is networking, helping each other, creating bridges between all the different communities, because I think it's the best way to step forward. And I can't remember what was your second question. I'm sorry. Can you?
What are the challenges that the Black community is facing in terms of Black entrepreneurship?
So few things that are known, for example, is how difficult it is for Black people to get loans. It's more difficult for us to get loans at the bank. What other things is, I would just talk about my personal experience. So because I'm French, but because I'm Black, sometimes people don't even think about the fact that I'm French. Or some people don't see Black people as being able to cook and bake pastries. And it's all about changing the perspective of people and making them realize that we are not, in a single box, and we can do different things. We have different skills. If we cook, we don't necessarily have to cook with spices, although I do love cooking with spices. But you know what I mean? It's all about changing the perspective and hoping that people will see us differently and not as a monolithic.
Yeah. Have you faced challenges within the Black community in terms of you being a man to actually, and being so academic, I guess, and then you change it and you come to something totally different? Have you faced some of those criticisms and whatnot? Have you faced those?
Yeah, so I did face them. For example, my father still, he's better now, but he kept telling me, why did you do that? Why did you go from, you were a PhD, so you have a doctorate, so why didn't you continue on that way? Why are you changing everything to become a baker? And for him, it's something that is not, super interesting. And he he doesn't like it. But I was recently on TV, and he changed his mind, and he thought, oh, maybe being a baker is not that bad if they can be on TV. But definitely, you can see that in the Black community, at least the Comorian community,
Mm-hmm.
there are lots of people who are kind of doubtful. They don't understand why I'm doing that, and some of them all actually laughed about me when I told them about my career change.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I know you can face those things because I remember growing up in Africa, um, you could only become an accountant, engineer, doctor, or lawyer. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what the parents wanted to hear from you. So I can relate to what you're saying, and it's very difficult sometimes as a man. You can, but I was talking to another person and say that the support system is very important to have that. I have a question for you. I'm not too sure if you know about the ecosystem fund that has been given to the Black not-for-profit organizations, and that has ignited a lot of conversation in the community about entrepreneurship. Are you aware of that?
I'm a little bit aware. I've heard about it. Yes.
Okay. So my question to you is now, given that, these organizations have received this for capacity building for businesses in the community, do you think that organizations should collaborate to make sure that they deliver a collaborative help to the community and to small businesses?
You know, I think it kind of goes back to what I was saying a little bit earlier about networking.
Yes.
And when I talk about networking, I also talk about collaborating.
Yes.
Collaborating is one part of networking,
Hmm.
and I think, and that's just my opinion. I don't know much about the ecosystem, but for me, whatever happens, it's always together. It's always better to go further. So if people can collaborate in any way, I think I mean, people will win. It's a win-win situation in any case.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying, collaborating and networking, brings us back to where we say that we have not learned how to spend money within our community and to support one another. What are some of those? I know it's not easy for you. It hasn't been easy for everybody. But what are some of the things that you can talk about in terms of how do we make sure that we spend money within our community?
So within our community, I think it's all about, I think part of it at least is about making sure that the process when it comes to giving grant is fair and that we have the best people who would be in charge when it comes to assessing who's going to get the money or not. And it's also about accountability when it comes to, taking a look at who get the money and then following over time how is that money spent and was that a good use of the money. But that's something that it's a very long process. There's so many different steps involved in that kind of process.
Yeah, how easy is it for an immigrant to actually get a loan? Because a lot of immigrants come here sometimes for the first time, I'm talking from experience sometimes with people I know, myself, and others that you would find that you're given a you're young, you come here, you're 20 years old, and you're given a credit card for the first time. You've never had a credit card, and then you start using the credit card, you think it's your money, and at the end of the day you have credit that's your bad credit. So what do you think about financial institutions to work with the Black community to make sure that we have that corridor to make sure people can access capital for their businesses, regardless of their bad credit. I've had those questions people ask in the community, and I want to hear it from you.
So there's two things that we're talking about. It's being an immigrant and being Black. and there's the intersectionality between those two, obviously.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I remember when I moved here as an immigrant and I wasn't a permanent resident, then I needed a line of credit, and it was refused to me immediately. They said, no, you cannot just have one. And so that shows how, as an immigrant, it's more difficult to get access to funds and capital. There's already a barrier here. As a Black person, I think that I know sometimes it's controversial, and I don't know if this is the perfect answer, but I think that, having some statistic as to who gets money, who gets a loan, depending on their credit score, if the person is Black or non-Black, and see first, is there a disparity between people who are Black or non-Black in terms of people who are getting a loan, even if they have the same credit score, so that will show first, okay, what is the discrimination? And maybe that has already been done. So we first need to know that. And if there is discrimination, if it's proven, I think that it will be great maybe to involve the government, because yes, Black association communities can vouch for ourselves and try to change the system, but there's only so much that we can do. We need allies, we need people from the government or outside of the Black community that can help us to change that system and make it a better one and a fairer one.
Well said. Well said. Thank you. Thank you for that answer. That was a very good answer. Who do you look to for advice or mentorship in the community? Have you reached out?
So there's a man that I actually met on Instagram, and his name is Brian, and he is also a Black baker who's a son of immigrant. And he's an entrepreneur, and he's very talented at what he's doing. And he's a person that I can always count on when I need advice as to what I should do next with my business. Where should I put my energy? And I think it's really important to have a mentor, because being an entrepreneur is something that it's a very lonely place.
Yeah. You
don't know where you're going. There's so many hardships. And to have someone, at least for me, to have someone who is Black as well, who understands for example, the racism that we can face, who understand all the hardship that I have faced as well, it helps me a lot.
Oh, wow. Now, is this person just online coach, or is the person within Canada? Like your mentor?
Just online coach. He's in the USA.
Okay. So I just wanted to know, that's why I asked, because the listeners, our listeners tonight, they can know that, you can reach out to a lot of people out there, and especially in the digital world, you can reach out to anyone out there, and that's very, very good. And that's what we are talking about, networking. You have to be able to have a good range of, people around you and all that. Now, what advice would you give to some of the Black entrepreneurs or those that want to start their business?
Yes, I would advise a few things. One of the things I would advise first is to, when you're making that switch between, like, for example, neuroscience to anything else, first start to sell whatever goods that you have, to see if this is something that you would like doing. Because when I switched, I thought I would be selling pastries, and I thought that that's what I would be enjoying, but I hated it. I really didn't like it. That's why I decided to sell baking classes. And that's why it's important to first, have, a pop-up, just try to see if this is something that you will enjoy. Also have social media, whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram, doesn't matter which one, but it's very good to show what you're doing, to promote what you're doing, marketing and networking. That's really important because you will be able to talk with many people around the world who are doing the same thing, passionate about the same thing as you, and who knows, maybe getting collaboration, getting promotion from those people. It's really important.
Yes, yes. Thank you for that. What are some of the not-for-profit organizations that you have worked with or you have used their resources? And what are those resources then that you have used?
I so far the only nonprofit I actually just started to work with is the Africa Center.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, it's the only, and I just started. They're gonna help me build a business plan. They've been extremely responsive. They've been extremely helpful, and I really recommend anyone to reach out to them because they're great.
How did you reach out to them?
They actually found me.
Oh,
I'm yeah, they actually found me on LinkedIn. That's why
oh,
I said the social media can be a very powerful tool.
yeah.
If you talk about your story, talk about what you're doing everywhere,
Yes.
maybe someone can see you and decide to give a hand to you. That's
Yeah.
why I think it's
Yeah.
always very important to network.
Yeah, networking is very important. Whether you are in whichever community you are, it's very important. Now, I want to take you back to the. I just want to take you back to when you switched your careers, and you wanted to become. I know you're a baker, but you sell lessons, right? You also sell lessons, right?
Yes.
And I want to take you back there. Can you tell our viewers the mindset and the process that you had to actually say, because it's just like, okay, I'm starting this, and now that, what was that mindset that you had instilled in yourself, and say that what are some of the attributes that you had to start?
Good question. It's it took a while for me to actually start selling classes because at first I kept saying to myself, who am I to do that? Yeah, I kept having the imposter syndrome. Why would people pay for my classes? Why would people attend any of my classes? And the switch happened when I actually had friends. I actually gave classes to my friends over internet during the pandemic, during the lockdown, and they told me that I was doing great, and I could see them, doing something that they like. I could see them enjoying the class and having a pastry at the end of it, and that was a great feeling. And they told me that I was a great teacher, and I could see that I was a great teacher because I could see their product. I could see the dessert that they made, and that's what it switched. And yeah, it was not easy at first because I was very unsure. I was not very confident, and even during my first class, when I was the first class that I gave, the first class that I sold, I was extremely not sure of what I was doing. I mean, I was not sure that people would enjoy that,
Yeah.
but they did. And I have people just coming back again and again to get other classes.
Oh, very nice. So, what are some of the things that you are doing right now, and some of the maybe the positives and the negatives that you're getting out there that you can advise, especially for young people? I know I asked you about advice to entrepreneurs, but then there's the career change. It doesn't matter whether you're going to be an entrepreneur, but sometimes sometimes young people would be in a science class at the university, but they realize, their passion is in art, or something, to do with dance. And which is, especially in the African community, how difficult it is to kind of go to things like that. It's now that we are starting to accept that. So what is that you can tell them?
So first, it's gonna be very difficult if you change, whether it's career or or studies. It's always gonna be very difficult, and there's gonna be a time of adaptation. It's gonna be a time where you're not gonna be comfortable, where you will think that, oh, maybe I made a mistake, maybe this is not for me, this is so difficult, because I was raised as a scientist, and becoming a baker, I had to kind of change my mindset. And it took some time for me to change my mindset. And I'm still not there yet. It's just a working process. And when it comes to, how can I say that? When it comes to the hurdles, the hardship in our communities, and the judgment, because there's a lot of judgment, at least in my community. I don't know, and I know in lots of Black communities, there's lots of judgment when you're doing something that is related to art. I would say that I know it's very easy to say, but ignore them. Ignore them. Do what you're doing. Just stay focused on what you're doing. And a lot of people told me, oh, you have to explain to your father that it's this and that and that. And sometimes I try to explain to my father, and he just did not understand. And it's okay if they don't understand. You have to make peace with the fact that they might not understand. As long as you're safe, as long as you're you can feed yourself, just do what you're doing and be focused on what you're doing, and it's going to be okay.
Thank you. I like the way you say that, make peace with yourself. I think making peace with yourself is very important, because it's as if, you have to accept you. You accept yourself, and you accept everything around what you're about to take on, and you'll be okay as long as you make peace with yourself. And it's very important, because determination is what it is, right? Where can people find you? I know this was a good conversation, and we can go on and on. But where can you tell our viewers where they can find you, and anything about any thoughts that you want to share?
So people can find me on social media, Instagram and TikTok, Saïd, SAID Pastry Nerd. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Saïd M'Dahoma. And you can find me on my website, thepastrynerd.com.
And you're in Calgary.
Sorry, I'm in Calgary.
And if they visit Calgary, where can they find you? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in Calgary, Alberta. I don't have a shop. I don't have a shop for now, but this is where I'm located. If you're around, if you have also a dream of becoming a baker, and you just want to chat, have a coffee with me, just feel free to reach out to me using all the information, using social media, and I will respond to you for sure.
Okay, all right. You've heard him, our pastry nerd, Saïd. Thank you so much for gracing us with your gift of pastry, and I know we will celebrate you more and more as you go on. Thank you so much once again for coming to this podcast, and happy Black History Month. This has been Conversations with Entrepreneurs, a podcast by Africa Center. You can find out all about them at africacenter.ca or by calling them at 780-455-5423. Get in touch and discover all the programs they offer and start changing your life today.